Good morning, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So what we're going to do this morning, we're going to have a clean up of the engine bay. We're going to remove a few components, see if we can get them cleaned. First thing we're going to do, we're going to remove this top stabilizer bar and the engine torque mount. We're going to clean those up, paint them, and and move on from there. So what we need to do, we need to remove the distributor cap, get that out of the way. So let's go ahead and get that off. So there we are, that's the distributor cap off. So what we need to do now, we need to remove this wire from this bracket here. And as you can see, I've removed all these pipes from these clips here. So let's get this, and also the crank sensor as well. You can see down there. So we need to disconnect that plug as well. So let's get these wires off. Okay, there's the wires disconnected. So next thing we need to do, guys, is we need to undo this upper bolt here. Get that out of the way. Okay, there we are. So next thing we've got to do is there's a Torx bolt here. What holds the cam sensor in. I don't know if you can see that there, little Torx bolt. Just this one here. This holds the cam sensor in and also holds the bracket on, so we need to remove that, and then we'll get the mounting bolts off as well. Okay, there we go, that's the mounting off there. So what we need to do now is remove this upper mount. Unfortunately, I'm going to need to just lift the scuttle panel up to be able to gain access to the two bolts what fastens the mounting on. So let's do that. Okay, there we are. That's the mounting removed. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to remove this alarm sounder, the horn. So we're going to clean that up as well, and we'll paint that. And there's a couple of other little brackets associated with the mountings. We're going to remove those as well. Okay, so here's the components I've cleaned up, need to paint. So let's get these treated. So there's a bit there with rust on, so we're going to get some rust treatment on them, and then we'll get some paint on. Okay guys, so here we are. Here's the parts what I've painted for the engine bay. So yeah, they're looking quite good, to be honest with you. So we've got the brackets there, bracket for the horn, that one for the vac pipes, obviously the engine bracket, and this one goes for the sensors, and then we've got the alarm horn and the mounting there for the top engine mount. So we're going to wait for these to dry, and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to fit this torque mount back onto the engine with this bracket and this bracket as well. Okay, so what we're going to do before we fit the parts back onto the bulkhead, we're going to retape this wiring up, what runs along the bulkhead to the master cylinder, the horn and other bits and bats. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, there we are, that's the wiring all retaped up. So next thing I'm going to do is we need to take the servo off and remove the reservoir on the brake master cylinder. So let's go ahead and do that. So there's the servo and the master cylinder removed. So what we've got to do now is clean down the back of the bulkhead there. As you can see, I've already done where the servo mounts, and clean up the clutch master cylinder. So we've got this shield here what sits on the top of the exhaust, that all needs cleaning and repainting. So let's move on. Okay, so here's the heat shield all painted in VHT black, and I've also painted the aircon pipes in satin black. So that's that part finished. So let's move on. So here we are, is the camshaft covers removed, and spark plug cover removed there, and the fuel rail cover. So what we'll do now, we'll clean these up and get these ready to go back on. So there we go, that's the inlet manifold off. So I'm going to clean that up, and I'm going to clean all the other components. Yeah, so take the breather off, start a motor, and then we'll clean all these pieces up down here as well, where the alternator is, power steering pump, and go from there really. So let's carry on. Okay, so here we are, here's all the components removed from the front of the engine. So we've got the starter off, alternator, power steering pump, air conditioning compressor. So all those parts are off. I'm going to clean all those up, and what we're going to do now, we're going to clean this cylinder block down, and we'll get some paint on it. Okay, so here we are, is the cylinder block all painted. I've just got another couple of coats to put on. I'm going to mask the top of the engine off and paint that too. In the meantime, what I'm going to do is fit the new servo on here. So I've lowered the subframe down by slacking the 4 bolts off on the subframe, give me enough access to get the new one in. And you can see there's a new one, so part number 9140237. And here's the new servo, as you can see. So let's go ahead and we'll get that on. Okay, so there's the brake servo on. So what we're going to do now, we'll just get the subframe back up, so we can get crack on and get some other stuff done. There we go, that's the engine back up. So what we'll do now, we'll put another coat of paint on here, and we'll get the top of the engine masked off, and we'll paint that as well. So before we mask the top of the engine, what I want to do is fit this wiring back onto the bulkhead. So let's go ahead and get that on. So here we are, is the wiring all back on to the bulkhead, around the servo, and again onto that on the switch there. Still the master cylinder to fit, but in the meantime what I've done is we've cleaned down the top of the engine and painted that, and also done the front, retaped all the wiring what runs along the bottom there, so that's all sorted as well. And we've retaped this wiring here what runs up to the fan. And so yeah, so that's looking all right at the moment. So let's move on. Okay, so next thing we need to do is remove this mounting bracket here, and we'll get that painted. And in the meantime, what we'll do while that's off, we'll swap the engine mounting over as well. So first thing we need to do is just need to remove these 2 bolts here, 2 little 10mm bolts, and the one here, and then we can jack the engine up and get the bracket off. So here's the mounting bracket off. So we're going to clean this mounting bracket up and we'll get it painted. So let's remove this engine mounting. Okay, so here's the mount removed from the car. As you can see, it's all perished along here and started to peel away there. So we'll replace that with a new one, and what we've got is we've got a Febby one, which is part number 9583 and Volvo number 6801722, which should match up with this on on the old mount, as you can see there, so that is the correct one. So let's go ahead and get this fitted. Okay, so there's the mounting on. What we've got to do now is we're going to fit this mounting back onto the engine down here, so let's do that. Okay, so that's the starter motor all fitted on, brand new starter motor. So what we're going to do now, we're going to clean up this thermostat housing, what goes on here, and we'll get that painted and then move on. Okay, so here we'll come across a problem when I've gone to tighten the thermostat housing on. As you can see, the bottom part's broken off, so that's possibly where I had a slight leak on it. Didn't see it when I took it off and prepped it. Just when I've gone to tighten it back up, it snapped off, so we're going to look for a new one. In the meantime, what we're going to do, we're going to put the ancillary bracket on. I'll just show you that. So here we are, here's the ancillary bracket. So we'll get the ancillary bracket all bolted up to the engine and we'll move on. Okay, so there's the bracket all bolted up. So what we're going to do now, we're just going to clean this air conditioning pump down, get this all cleaned and painted, and then we'll get this back on the car. Okay, so there we are, that's the compressor. So let's get it on the car and move on to the next stage. Okay, so there's the compressor on. So what we've got to do now is do this bracket here, fit that bracket on. So this is the bracket here. So what we're going to do is we'll paint this bracket up, clean it down, paint it, and we'll get that fitted onto the car. So before we fit this bracket on, we're going to fit this freshly reconditioned alternator onto the car. So let's go ahead and get that on. So there we are, that's the alternator on and the bracket. So what we'll do now, we'll move on and we'll get the inlet manifold all painted and get that sorted. Okay, so here's the inlet manifold. What we're going to do with this, we're going to take the throttle body off and the vacuum tree, and what we'll do then, we'll clean it all up and then we'll get to paint. So let's get the throttle body off and the vacuum tree and move on. So here we are, there's the manifold all cleaned up. I've masked the surface off there for the inlet manifold. So what we're going to do now is going to get some paint onto it, and then we'll move on and try and get it fitted. Okay guys, so there we are, that's the manifold all painted. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get the gasket on, which is this one. This is the one for the T5. It's an L-ring one. Struggle gainer genuine one, but this is next best thing. So let's get the gasket on and then we'll get the manifold on. So before we put the manifold on, guys, we need to put this PCV on. So this is all new. I replaced it about 20,000 miles ago. So I've checked it, everything's all okay. So what we're going to do is put a new clip on there, new joiner onto the block. So let's go ahead, get this on, and then we'll put the manifold on. So there we are, that's the inlet manifold on. So what we've got to do now, we've got to clean the throttle body up, and we'll put a new gasket on that one, and then all the pieces what goes on here, the throttle linkage and things like that. So yeah, let's go ahead and get that done. Here we are, then is the throttle body all cleaned and painted. So what we're going to do now, we'll just get this onto the car with a new gasket, and then we'll move on to the next step. So here we are, is the throttle body on, and the idle air control valve, and the throttle linkage. So there's just the connecting rod to fit. Just waiting for that to dry. But in the meantime, what we're going to do is we'll clean up the fuel rail, what goes in here. I'll just show you that. So this is a fuel rail. So we're going to clean these injectors up and take the regulator valve off and clean that as well, and get it back together and get it back on the car. Okay, there we are, that's the fuel rail all cleaned up and on. So we've got all the wiring on as well, as you can see, and we've put a new return pipe there on, and the wiring connected down there on the clamp. So what we've got to do now, we've got to put the cover what goes over the top of the wiring there on. There we go, that's the cover on there. So what we'll do now, we'll have a look at this area here and see what we can do down here, sort all the brake pipe work out, and have a look at cleaning all the gearbox up, and other bits and bats too. Okay guys, so here's all the brake pipes sorted. As you can see, I've polished the brake pipes up, put new clips on, and routed them all along the bulkhead. What I've done with the brake pipes, I've cleaned them and clear coated them, so it should stop any oxidization on the freshly cleaned pipes. As you can see, I've put new clips on as well down there, and new clips onto the rubber hoses as well there. And this is a new clip, and the one down here, that's a new one as well. So what we're going to do now is we'll get the new bulkhead mount on. So let's move on and do that. Okay, so here's the new mount. It's a Professional Parts from Sweden brand, which is part number 61430096. So it is an aftermarket part, so let's go ahead and get this on. Okay, so there's the top mount on. As you can see, it's a modified one from the original. What I've also done is removed the gear cables and all the brackets and associated components, so I can paint the top of the gearbox, and then I'll do the front and the back and the sides when I can get underneath it. But in the meantime, let's get this all cleaned down and painted, and all the brackets I'm going to do black as well. So let's get that done. Okay, so there we are, that's the top of the gearbox all painted. So I've done this bracket satin black, and the other bracket there, there's the gear selector bracket what goes on there, one down here for the wiring. So I'm just got those in some rust converter at the moment just to clean them, and then I'm going to get those painted as well, so bear with me. So here's the brackets what's been painted, the gear selector brackets. So I'm just waiting for those to dry, and then we can get those back onto the gearbox. So that's the gear cable bracket all painted up, so we'll get this up onto the gearbox. Okay, so there we are, that's the gear selector bracket on, and we've taped all the wiring up as well, and bracket down there what's on. What we're going to do now is fit the stabilizer bracket on, and the one what goes on here, and the one what goes on to the bulkhead as well. So let's go ahead and we'll get that fitted. Okay, so there we are, that's the stabilizer bracket on, with the little brackets down there as well, what holds all the connectors on, and also the vac pipes, so all that's on. So next thing we need to do, I think we're going to move on to the timing belt and get the timing belt done, and then we can build the top of the engine up. Okay, so here we are, is the timing belt before I remove it. So I just want to show you the timing mark at the bottom there. You should be able to see it on the pulley on the outer edge of the pulley, and then you can see the mark on the timing cover as well, on the oil pump, sorry. And what I've done as well is I've locked the cams at this end to make sure that the cams are all in line with a locking tool, so we can adjust the vernier on the cams to exactly where it needs to be. So let's go ahead and get the belt removed. Okay, so there's a timing belt removed, and we've also removed the water pump, and we removed the lower pulley as well, because I'm going to replace that. I'll show you that. So there we go. You can see where all the bits of rubber have come away on it, and also what I've got to replace as well, you can see down there where the fuel pipes connect to, what goes up and over top of the rocker cover. So we're going to replace those. I'll just show you that. There we are. So we're going to replace these. These are all bent, so I've got some spare ones, so we'll get those on while we've got access to them, and move on from there. So what we're going to do, we're just going to clean all this up, put these new pipes on, clean all the rear cover, and to get the belt back on. Okay guys, so here we are is the new parts what's to go on. So we've got an Ancillary water pump, which is WV001D, which is a genuine original equipment for Volvo. As you can see there, they've ground the Volvo badge off. And then I've got a INA idler pulley, and we've got an INA tensioner pulley. That was a little bit difficult to find, but I managed to find a new old stock one. And then I've got a genuine Volvo timing belt for it. So let's go ahead and we'll get these on. So just to show you guys with these water pumps, as you can see, it says Ancillary on the original Volvo one, which is there, and we've got Ancillary on this one, and then we've also got same number 10650 and 10650. So these pumps are identical, just one says Volvo on, the other one doesn't, which, like I said earlier, has been ground off there. So yeah, let's move on. Okay, so here we are, is the timing belt all fitted on. So we've got the new idler, the new tensioner, new water pump. Like I said, just waiting for a new bottom pulley come in, rear cover back on, fuel pipes on. So what we'll do now, we'll remove the cam locking tool from the rear, and we'll get the cam sensor put back in, and we'll get the distributor cap and that on. Okay, so there's the distributor cap and the cam sensor all on. What we're going to do now, we're just going to change the spark plugs, and then we can get the HT leads on. Okay, so spark plugs are in, guys. So what we've got here is a brand new set of HT leads. These are actually bougie cord, which is original equipment for Volvo. So let's go ahead and we'll get these on. Okay, so there's the HT leads all fastened in, and also the accelerator cable, that's all being connected. So what we need to do now is connect the boost pipe what goes down onto the throttle body. So let's do that. Okay, so here's the boost doors. So what we're going to do is fit stainless steel clamps on it, stop them oxidizing and corroding. So yeah, let's get this on. So here we are, that's the boost hose onto the throttle body. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to fit this new tensioner on, auxiliary belt tensioner. So it's a I&I one, as you can see, and there's a part number for you. So let's go ahead and get this on. Okay, so there we are, that's the tensioner on. So what we're going to do now is fit the idler pulley, what goes down here, onto it. Okay, here's the idler. So this is the part number 9146139. So this is a new old stock what I got. So let's get this fitted on. Okay, there we are. That's the idler on. So what we're going to do now, guys, is we're going to paint the brackets what goes on here for the power steering pump. I'll just show you those. Okay, guys. So here's the brackets what I've just primed up, and this one here as well. So while they're drying, what we're going to do, we're going to put the new clutch hose on. I'll just show you that. Okay, here's the new clutch hose from R&D Car Parts. There's the part number for it. So let's go ahead, we'll get this on onto the vehicle. Okay, so there's where the clutch hose joins, down there, and it obviously runs up here along this bracket, and then we go down and onto the slave cylinder. What you've got to bear in mind, guys, just make sure that the rubber hose doesn't rub on anything, because that's what had happened on mine. It was rubbing on this wiring sheath here, and basically nearly rubbed through the pipe. So just manipulate it out of position, away from the rubber hose, away from the hoses, the other components, and everything should be okay on that. So yeah, so let's go and check on these brackets. Okay, so here we are, is the brackets, what's all been painted. Just got a couple more coats to put on, and then they'll all be done. So let's move on and do some more pipe work on the engine. Okay, so here we are. I've done the vacuum hoses from the turbo up to the TXV valve, and obviously this one goes up to the air intake, and also around to the manifold as well. So a lot better than the rubber stuff. So let's go ahead, we'll get the air intake hose on, and go from there. Okay guys, so here's the air intake pipe. So it's a DO88 pipe, and as you can see, we've put the PSV valve in there, and the blanking plug in the bottom of it, and blanking plug in there for the where you put the dump valve, and then also we've got one in the top there as well. And this one here, this one's for the vacuum piped atmosphere from the TXV valve for the turbo. So let's go ahead, we'll get this on. Okay, so there's the air intake pipe on, as you can see, and then we've got the valve down there with the vacuum pipes, the PSV pipes, and then this goes up to the air mass meter. So as you can see, there's a reducer on that to go up to the air mass meter. So what we need to do now, guys, is we need to clean the airbox, and we'll get the airbox in. Okay guys, so here's the airbox. So what we're going to do, like I say, we'll just clean this up, put a bit of paint on these clips here, and go from there. So let's get these clips off. So there we are, that's the airbox in, or the lower part of the airbox in. I don't know whether you'll be able to see down there, but see the valve for the turbo, which is connected onto the side of the airbox. So what I'll do now, we'll get the air filter in, and we'll get the top part of the airbox all sorted out. So there we are guys, that's the airbox in, connected up to the inlet pipe, As you can see, it looks quite good, that pipe, to be honest with you. So what we need to do now, we need to connect the coolant hose up, and we need to connect this boost hose up here as well. So let's go ahead and get that done. Okay, so there's the coolant hose on. What I'll do now is we'll put the boost hose on, which is this one, what goes down here. Okay, there we are. That's the boost hose on. So what I need to do now, before I put this top hose on here, is we need to have a look at this fan housing. We'll clean all this fan housing down, and yeah, and go from there. Okay, so first thing we need to do, guys, we need to get these 4 bolts out. So there's one there, one there, one down here, and one here. And then we need to remove this as well, and then we can get down to the actual housing. Okay, so here's the fan motor and housing off the main body. This is the main body. Also, what I've done is I've taken the fan blade off as well, which is this one here, which is just drying. This is just held on with a clip there. So what I need to do with this housing is we need to repair this here. So I think what we're going to repair that with some fiberglass matting. So we'll have a look at that and see whether we can do it. And then what we need to do then, we need to take the fan motor off there and clean the fan motor down as well. Okay, while we wait for that repair to dry on the housing, what we're going to do, we're going to take this fan motor off. So we need to undo these 2 clips here, and undo this out of the bracket as well, and we'll remove this clip as well. So we'll clean those clips up. So let's get these 3 10mm bolts out. Okay, so here's the motor off. As you can see, there's the clips as well, and this is the housing. So what we're going to do, we're going to clean this housing down, and then what we'll do, we'll look at putting some new sheathing on this motor, and painting it up as well. Okay guys, so what I've done is I've cleaned this fan motor down, cleaned all the crusty rust off it, the flaky paint, and in the meantime what I've done is put some rust converter on. So let's let this do the job, and then we'll get it primed and painted. Okay, so there's the first coat of primer. So I'm going to bob another coat on this, and then we can get some satin black on it as well. Okay, so here we are, is the motor all primed up. So let's get some satin black on it. Okay, so here we are, is the motor all painted. So what we're going to do now, we're going to remove this masking tape from the wiring, and we'll look at putting a new corrugated sheathing on it. So let's just get the tape off. Okay, as you can see, the sheathing on this is all crumbling and shot. So what I've got is I've got some more here, so we'll get this on. We'll get this off first, and then we'll put that new stuff on. Okay, so there we are, that's the sheathing all taken off. I'll put some fresh sheathing on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this in tape to hold it on, because this is a split sheathing, as you can see. So let's get this all taped up. Okay, there we are, that's the wiring all taped up. So what we'll do now, we'll just clean this plug up and this plug, and we'll get the motor back into the house. Okay, so I've painted up all the screws and the clips, so let's get the motor back into the housing with these screws. Okay, here's the fan housing, what has all been cleaned, so let's get the motor in. Okay, there we are, that's the motor in. As you can see, we've done the clips as well, and this clip what goes on here. So next thing to do, we need to put this motor into the fan shroud, or the housing if you want to call it that. Let's have a look at the housing, and I think it needs cleaning, so let's go ahead and get that done. Okay, so here's the fan shroud all cleaned up. So I'll just show you what I've done with that repair on the back. So as you can see there, I've just fiberglassed it and put a bit of paint on. So that's the best you could really do with that, not being able to buy the part. Obviously it's not seen, so that should be alright. But there we go, that's the fan shroud all done. So let's get the fan into this and we'll go from there. Okay, so here's the fan in the housing. So what we need to do now is put the fan blade on, and then we can get it onto the car. Okay, there we are, that's the fan blade on, just held on with this one circlip here. So let's go ahead, we'll get this onto the car. Okay guys, so there's the fan housing in and all the fan. So next thing we need to do is we need to put this boost hose on the top. So let's go ahead and get that done. Okay guys, so just before we put the boost hose on, we've just got to fit these two clips into the top of the radiator, which goes in here. So let's go ahead and get those on, and then we'll put the boost pipe on. Okay, so here's the boost hose on, as you can see. So what we've got to do now is we've got this piece to put on, what holds the relays in. So let's get this all cleaned up and we'll get that on. Okay, there we are. That's the trimming in the top there where the relays go. So that's the relay there, and then the one over there for the cooling fan. So let's move on. Okay, next thing we need to do is we need to clean these air intake scoop up, and we need to try and work out what we're going to use in this hole to fasten it to the front panel, because the rubber bung what usually holds out to the front panel isn't available anymore. So let's see what we can do. Okay, as you can see there, I've used a nut and bolt to hold it on. But what I've put on in between the nut and bolt is a piece of silicone hose, just to squash it up and allow it to be flexible. So yeah, I've got to utilise what we can when parts are not available. So what I've got to do now is put this air scoop on to the air box, and then we'll move on. Okay, there we are, that's the air scoop on. So what I'm going to do now is put the new cover what goes on here, which I've managed to get hold of a new one. So we've got part number 9189149. So let's go ahead and we'll get that on. Okay, so there's the throttle body cover on, and also what I've done is I've clipped this wire up here as well, and yeah, we've put some clips in down there as well. Oh, you didn't see them right much, to be fair. You can see that plastic clip there, and there's a few others. See one down there as well, just to hold the pipe away, stop them rubbing. So let's move on to the next step. Okay, so next thing we need to do is fit the strut brace on, which bolts on here and onto the other side. So let's get that out, we'll get that cleaned up and get it fitted. Okay, there we are, that's the strut brace all on, as you can see. So there we are. So let's move on and get the next step done. Okay guys, so what I'm doing now, I'm fitting the rear engine mounting. So as you can see, this is the one to replace the original one. It is slightly different. Part numbers do correspond to the original part. So there's the part number for the Febby one, and then the Volvo number underneath, and then these, it does correspond. I've checked it all out. This is a modified one to fit on the rear, so let's get this on. Okay, there we are guys, that's the engine mounting on. So what we're going to do now is we're going to clean all underneath here, the sump, bottom of the gearbox, probably under seal the subframe. So let's move on. Okay, so here we are. Here's the gearbox all cleaned and painted, and sump as well. Fresh oil filter on. And what I've done is we've done the subframe as well, as you can see. Under sealed it all, so it's looking a lot better than it was. Like I said, we did that engine mounting as well, which I've just previously showed you, but yeah, everything's looking good. So yeah, let's move on. Okay guys, so this is one of the parts I've been waiting for. It's the crank pulley. It's a PPS branding, which is Professional Parts Sweden, and distributed by R&D Car Parts. There's the number, the part number for it. So let's have a look at it. As you can see, slightly different to the original one. It's got a little bit of a recess in here where this one hasn't, and only has one hole here where that one's got two. But yeah, it won't cause a problem, that. So let's get this onto the vehicle and go from there. Okay, so here we are, is the lower pulley on. What we need to do now is when the thermostat housing comes, we'll get the thermostat housing on, fit the alternator, and we can get the belt on. So let's move on. Okay, here we are guys, is the new thermostat housing. It's an MTC one, which I imported from States. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and get this fitted to the vehicle. But I need to fit these two gaskets on. There was a service bulletin out for the 850 watt. I advise you to put two gaskets on, so let's go ahead and we'll get this on. Okay, so there we are, that's the thermostat housing on. So there's two gaskets on and the three new bolts, and we've put the temp sensor in as well. So what we're going to do now, we're going to get the brackets on that go on here to hold the power steering pump on. So let's go ahead and we'll get that on. Okay, so here's how the brackets go on, the two side brackets. But what I need to do first, need to get the power steering pump on, and then we can tighten them all up. Okay, so here's the new power steering pump. So it's a BGA unit, as you can see. So let's just get this out and I'll show you. So here we are, it's the pump. So what we're going to do, we'll get this onto the vehicle, and then we can tighten the rest of the bolts up. Okay guys, so there's the power steering pump on. So what we've got to do now is fasten the pipes on. So there's one there and one there, and then we can get the thermostat housing lid on. Okay, here we are guys, this is the thermostat. So we've got the start there, and we've got a new seal here, which is part number 68422214, and then we've got the thermostat housing there, and 2 of the new bolts. So let's get this onto the car. Okay, so here we are, is the thermostat housing on and both coolant pipes. Next thing to do is put the auxiliary belt on, and I've made a special tool here to, you know, slacken off the tensioner. So I'll just show you the belt. Okay, so here's the belt, part number 91863552. This is new old stock. So let's go ahead, we'll get this on. Okay guys, so turns out that the 1743 belt was too small, couldn't get that on. So I've been down to my local motor spares and managed to get a 1750, which actually goes on and fits nice. So for some unknown reason, which I don't know, the 1743 wouldn't fit. I tried the earlier size belt, and the earlier size belt again were too small, so God knows, I ain't got a clue why they wouldn't fit. But the 1750 actually goes on now, so there we go. So next thing we need to do, guys, is we need to fit this ECU box back on. Okay, so there's the box in. So what we're going to do now, we're just going to bob the ECU in. There we go, that's the ECU in, and then we'll fit the box on, the lid on, and the pipe to the radiator cowling. Okay, so there's the lid on and the pipe. So what we need to do now, we need to top the coolant up. So here's the coolant what I'm using from Volvo. It's a concentrated coolant, so we're looking at 7.4 litres in the cooling capacity. So what I'll do is I'll put maybe 3.5 litres of this in, and then we'll top it up with water. Okay, so we've topped the coolant up, so what we're going to do now, we're just going to connect the battery up, and we'll try starting it up for the first time. Okay guys, so let's go ahead and try and start it. So we've got ignition lights, can hear the fuel pump, and there we go. Fired up first time, so you can hear the lifters, but they'll be okay once it's got warm. So what we'll do now, we'll bleed the cooling system out and we'll go from there. Okay, there we are, that's the cooling system all bled out, and the noisy lifters gone now, the engine's got up to temperature. So there we go, that's all the engine all cleaned down, all the engine bay all cleaned down. So thank you for watching guys, please like, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.